Welcome back to StoryPath English, my friends. I am so truly, deeply happy to see you here again in our circle. Please, find a very comfortable place to sit. Lean back, let your shoulders drop, and feel the weight of the day leave your body. Take a deep, slow breath in and let it out. Imagine we are sitting together once more by our warm, glowing campfire. Tonight, the air around us feels heavy, silent, and very, very old. It is a dry, dusty heat that tastes of ancient sand, sun-baked stone, and secrets that have been buried for thousands of years. If you look up, the stars are brilliant and sharp, shining over the silent, golden dunes of the Egyptian desert. Tonight, we are not just telling a story about gold, jewelry, and ancient kings. We are telling a story about a warning from the past, a story of a boy who became a god, a hidden door that was never meant to be opened, and a dark shadow that seemed to follow everyone who dared to disturb the eternal sleep of a pharaoh. This is the mystery of the curse of Tutankhamun. To begin our journey, we must travel back in time to the year 1922. Imagine a man named Howard Carter. He is an English archaeologist, a man of incredible patience, but also a man who is very stubborn. For 6 long, hot years, he has been digging in a place called the Valley of the Kings. This is a lonely, rocky desert where the great pharaohs of ancient Egypt were buried more than 3,000 years ago. By 1922, most people think the valley is empty. They say all the treasure has been stolen by tomb robbers long ago. They laugh at Carter in the clubs of Cairo and London. They tell him he is chasing a ghost. But Carter has a feeling in his heart, a whisper from the sand. He believes there is one king, a young boy named Tutankhamun, who is still waiting to be found. Imagine the heat of the Egyptian sun beating down on your back every single day. Imagine moving thousands of tons of hot sand and sharp rocks, day after day, year after year, and finding absolutely nothing but empty holes and broken pottery. His friend and financial backer, a wealthy man named Lord Carnarvon, is finally losing his hope and his money. He travels to Egypt and tells Carter, "This is the last year. If we find nothing by the end of this season, we stop. We go home. The dream is over." Have you ever been so close to giving up on a dream? Have you ever felt like the whole world was telling you no, but a small voice inside you said just one more day? That was Howard Carter. On November 4th, 1922, that one more day finally arrived. A young Egyptian boy, whose job was to carry jars of water to the workers, was sitting in the sand. To pass the time, he was scratching at the ground with a stick. Suddenly, he hit something hard. It wasn't a rock. It felt like carved stone. He called Carter over. They began to dig with their hands, their hearts racing with a mix of excitement and fear. One stone step appeared, then another, and another. By the next day, they had uncovered 16 steps leading down into the dark earth. At the bottom was a sealed door. On that door was the royal seal of the Pharaoh. Carter had found it. He had found a tomb that had been silent and dark since 1323 BC. But as they stood before that door, a strange, cold feeling filled the air. There are legends, though we cannot find the physical proof today, that near the entrance they found a small clay tablet. It was inscribed with a chilling warning in ancient hieroglyphs: "Death shall come on swift wings to him who disturbs the peace of the king." The Egyptian workers were terrified. They knew the stories of the times Ka, times the soul of the pharaoh, and how it protected its resting place with powerful magic. They felt the weight of 3,000 years of silence pressing against their chests. But the human desire for discovery and the shine of gold were stronger than the fear of a ghost. On the evening of November 26th, Carter stood before the second sealed door. With trembling hands, he made a tiny hole in the upper left corner. He took a candle, lit it, and held it to the opening. The hot, stagnant air from inside the tomb escaped, making the candle flame flicker and dance. Lord Carnarvon stood right behind him in the dark tunnel, his breath hitching in his throat. "Can you see anything?" Carnarvon whispered, his voice shaking. Carter stood there in total silence for what felt like an hour. His eyes were wide. Finally, as his eyes adjusted to the glimmer of gold, he spoke the most famous words in the history of archaeology. "Yes, wonderful things." Inside was a room packed from floor to ceiling with treasures. There were golden chariots that looked ready for battle, statues of black obsidian and gold, alabaster jars, and furniture so beautiful it didn't seem real. In the center of the inner room was a massive stone box, and inside that, a series of golden coffins. When they opened the last one, they saw the face of Tutankhamun, a solid gold mask of a young boy with calm, eternal eyes. Tutankhamun was no longer a forgotten name. He was back in the world of the living. But as the gold began to shine in the light of their modern torches, the curse began to wake up. The first victim was Lord Carnarvon himself. A few weeks after the tomb was opened, he was bitten by a mosquito on his cheek while he was out on the Nile River. It seemed like a small, annoying thing. But the bite became infected. He fell into a terrible, burning fever. In the spring of 1923, Lord Carnarvon died in a hotel in Cairo. At the exact moment he took his last breath, something impossible happened. Every single light in the massive city of Cairo went out. The city was plunged into a terrifying, total darkness that lasted for hours. No engineer could explain it. At the same time, thousands of miles away at his home in England, Lord Carnarvon's favorite dog let out a long, haunting howl and dropped dead. The world was terrified. The newspapers in London, New York, and Paris began to scream, "The curse of the Pharaoh." People began to count the deaths of everyone connected to the dig. An American millionaire named George J. Gould visited the tomb. He died of a mysterious fever shortly after. An Egyptian prince was shot by his wife after he visited the site. An archaeologist named Arthur Mace, who helped Carter open the burial chamber, fell into a coma and died. A man named Richard Bethel, who was Howard Carter's personal secretary, died mysteriously in his bed. Even the doctor who x-rayed the mummy died on his way back to England. Was it the power of an ancient king who wanted to be left alone? Was it a magical trap set by the high priests of Egypt to protect their god-king? Imagine the fear of the people who were still alive. Every time they coughed, every time they felt a slight headache or a fever, they must have looked over their shoulders and wondered, "Am I next? Is the boy king coming for me on swift wings?" But my friends, as we sit here by our fire, we must ask, is there a scientific secret behind the supernatural secret? Today, modern scientists have a different theory. They believe the curse might not have been magic, but something much more microscopic. When a tomb is sealed perfectly for 3,000 years, it becomes a world of its own. Inside the dark, damp air, ancient molds and bacteria can grow on the walls and the offerings of food. One of these is a dangerous fungus called Aspergillus flavus. It can live for centuries in the dust of tombs and the wrappings of mummies. When Howard Carter broke the seal, these microscopic assassins were released into the air. The explorers breathed them in. For men like Lord Carnarvon, who was already weak from years of living in the desert, these ancient spores could cause a deadly infection in the lungs. However, there is one big mystery that science has a hard time explaining. Howard Carter, the man who actually found the steps, the man who broke the seal, the man who actually touched the mummy and lived inside the tomb for years he did not die of a fever. He was not bitten by a cursed mosquito. He lived for another 17 years and died at the age of 64 of natural causes. Why did the curse spare the man who disturbed the king the most? Perhaps it was because Carter showed the king respect. He did not just take the gold and run away. He spent the rest of his life carefully recording every single object, making sure the world knew who Tutankhamun was. He didn't just steal a treasure, he saved a soul. The story of Tutankhamun teaches us about the weight of time and the power of a person's name. The ancient Egyptians believed that a person had two deaths. The first is when the heart stops beating. The second is when the last person on earth speaks your name for the last time. For 3,000 years, Tutankhamun was truly dead and forgotten. But because of Howard Carter's stubbornness and his refusal to give up, today, every child in every school in the world knows the name of the boy king. In a strange way, the discovery was the greatest gift anyone could give to the Pharaoh. It gave him eternal life. It also teaches us about the consequences of our curiosity. It reminds us that when we step into the past, we must do so with soft footsteps. We must remember that we are walking among the dreams, the faith, and the lives of those who came before us. History is not just a collection of old things. It is a collection of people. As we sit by our campfire tonight, I want you to think about the tombs in your own life, the secrets you have hidden away, or the giant dreams you have buried deep in the sand because you were afraid of what people would say. Are you brave enough to dig for them, even when the world laughs at you? And if you find your wonderful things, will you have the respect and the patience to handle them with the care they deserve? Learning English is very much like archaeology. You are digging through the sand of a new language every day. Sometimes it is hot, exhausting, and difficult. Sometimes you find nothing but empty holes and confusing grammar rules. But if you keep digging, if you have the persistence of Howard Carter, you will eventually find your own golden treasure. You will find a new way to speak your heart, a new way to think, and a new way to see the beauty of the world. The fire is burning low now, my friends. The red coals are glowing like the gold mask of the king in the dark chamber. I want to thank you for sitting with me and traveling to the Valley of the Kings tonight. I hope that tonight, when you close your eyes and go to sleep, you can imagine yourself standing at the top of those 16 stone steps, feeling the warm desert wind on your face, and wondering what wonderful things are waiting for you in your own journey through life. Tell me in the comments, do you believe the deaths were caused by an ancient curse, or do you think it was just bad luck and ancient bacteria?